Over the years, marriage has gone from an arrangement to strengthen political and economic status, to influence the population to cohabitate in order to avoid divorce rather than actually marrying. Today, we are going to dissect the different eras of marriage. According to the article Love and Marriage in 18th Century Britain, in the 18th century, most marriages among landed or moneyed families were essentially financial arrangements designed to cement powerful alliances in exchange or acquire land and property. Marriage was essentially a way to better your family during this time frame and nothing more. Even the working class population, their marriages were arranged with the same idea. Most of the time, marriages were arranged when these individuals were babies, and weddings were to take place when they were teenagers. Can you imagine having no say in who you were about to marry and spend your day to day life with? It's almost unimaginable for us today. Marriage remained loveless until around the 1900s, when the idea of sexual attraction and compatibility were more accepted. Now, during the Great Depression, marriage rates fell between 20% from 1929 to 1933, according to Matthew Hill in the article Love in the Time of the Depression: The Effect of Economic Conditions on Marriage in the Great Depression. Marriage rates quickly recovered when the economy rebounded. The result was that the marriages were delayed rather than denied. Marriages were delayed because of the financial instability, which discouraged couples from starting a family. Once the economy once the economy improved, the number of marriages increased again. During the 1950s, when the industrial boom took place, women were not in the workplace and were marrying at a very young age. So, family life in the 50s was far different from what it was in any decade before or after in this century, according to the New York Times article, The 50s Family and Today's. About three-fourths of all women between the ages of 20 and 24 had already married. A lot of the population mislabel this era as the traditional family, but the characteristics of this time has never been duplicated. We all know during the 1950s, the United States was fighting the war on equality. Marriage was no different. Interracial marriage was illegal until 1967, when the Supreme Court ruled that it was legal in all 50 states. 1967. The couple that triggered the change was Richard and Mildred Loving. They were arrested in 1958 in Virginia and were forced to leave the state, according to the Encyclopedia of Virginia. The American Civil Liberties Union filed motions and appeals on the Lovings' behalf in 1963, and after the Virginia Supreme Court of Appeals ruled against them in 1966, the Supreme Court heard their arguments. It's really bizarre to me to think only a few decades ago interracial marriages were against the law. Now, in the 1960s, the number of married couples was around 500,000. Skip ahead to the year 2000, and the number of unmarried couples jumps to nearly 5 million. So, with divorce rates being so high, many have chosen cohabitation instead of marriage. Some of the benefits are still gained, but there's no risk of divorce, which many see as a failure. According to the National Marriage Project, living together outside of marriage increases the risk of domestic violence for women and the risk of physical and sexual abuse for children. Unmarried couples have lower levels of happiness and well-being than married couples. Living together before marriage increases the risk of breaking up after marriage. Now, obviously, there are major negatives to cohabitation, but the risks are usually unknown, so it still makes it appealing. Moving on to current times, on June 26, 2015, same-sex marriage was legalized in all 50 states. Now, obviously, this has and will change the landscape of marriage, but since it is so new, it is unknown if the statistics of marriage have changed dramatically. Marriage has changed drastically over the years. Throughout the 20th century, marriage was used to gain and strengthen political and economic status. During the Great Depression, marriage was often delayed because of financial stability, and during the industrial boom of the 1950s, women were not in the workforce and were marrying by their mid-20s at the latest, altering the design of households across the United States. Interracial marriage was legalized in 1967, once again changing the pattern of marriage. In 2015, same-sex marriage was legalized, which has transformed the face of marriage again. All in all, marriage, like most everything, is susceptible to change.